Hi there. My name is Megan Sumrell, and I am a time management and planning expert for women. And I am thrilled to be here today to share with you one of my personal favorite tools that I keep in my kind of tool belt or my suite of planning tools. That is what I call our Family Communication Center. Now, I am the CEO and founder of The Pink Bee, which is a company that is focused on bringing all things time management, organization, productivity, and planning into homes all over the world. And I do this through teaching my proprietary planning system called the TOP program. Again, time management, organization, and productivity. And one tiny piece of what I teach is how to set up and establish what I call a family communication center. I have done an entire podcast episode really discussing the purpose and the power of a family communication center. I'll put a link to that below here in the description. But what I want to do here today is really give you an in-depth overview of the tool that we use here in our house as our family communication center. And it is called the Skylight Calendar. I am going to be popping back and forth of me talking, of me holding up the calendar and kind of introducing you to the features and functionality of it. It can be sometimes a little tricky to get a really good view of it, but you will be able to see enough to be able to understand the power of what this tool can do for you. Before we jump into showing you the Skylight Calendar, here is one of the best things about it. The company as a whole is constantly taking feedback from its community of users. They are enhancing things. They're rolling out new features. They are tweaking things, which means that at any given time, something I may be showing on my Skylight calendar may be enhanced in the future. This video is not meant to replace the incredible support and the user guide and everything that comes with the calendar. You may see at the time you get yours and you're watching this video that something may look a little bit different, but the overall functionality and how we use it gets to stay the same. So I just kind of want to put that caveat on here. If you're seeing something different with your calendar than what I have, always go consult the Skylight Calendar user guide that you get when you actually purchase your calendar. Their instructions are impeccable and they are always up to date. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to actually show you what the calendar looks like. Then we're going to break down what all the different features are with the current calendar that I have. And then I'm going to show you exactly how I personally use it. Some of the features that I'm going to be introducing you to are ones that I'm not currently using, but I'll explain why, and I'll tell you why they're still fantastic features. So let's go ahead and take a peek here at the Skylight calendar. Okay, we're going to start with me holding it up. Again, I'm going to go a little dark, but it's going to allow you to really see the calendar. And what I'm going to be showing with you first is the view that we are using 99% of the time, which is what's called the schedule view. So you'll see here, you're just looking at a random 7 days on my actual Skylight calendar. Up here in this corner is where you can toggle different calendar views. I'm going to press that pull down and you'll notice it has a day, week, month, or what's called schedule. I personally keep mine on the schedule tab, and in the settings, you get to decide how many days you want in your schedule view. So there's a subtle difference between schedule versus week, because week is always going to show either Monday through Sunday or Sunday through Saturday. And as the week's progressing, you're seeing less and less. With the schedule view, I have mine set up that it's always showing the farthest on the left is today, and it's always showing a rolling 7-day window. But I am going to go ahead and toggle it over to the month view, just so you can get an idea of what that looks like. And now we'll go ahead and take out a daily view so you can see what that looks like. But again, I always recommend using the schedule view with 7 days, because that's in alignment with how I teach planning. If you are, constantly leaving your Skylight calendar in a month view, it's going to be really hard for people to see important, relevant information. And then you will also notice that when you're in, any other view, you're not going to get the actual times, meaning you won't be able to see specifically at what time a certain event is for. Our core view here in our house is the schedule view. You may have noticed when we're looking at the schedule view, you're seeing different colors here, right? I've got some stuff that's pink, some that's green, some that's turquoised, and then we have some that's actually just plain white. I want to take a couple minutes and explain how this color coding works. So first and foremost with the color coding, you get to have complete control over what each color means. All right, so that means I have customized my Skylight calendar for the colors that I want to see. You really can do a million different things with the colors, but the core premise behind them is they're actually what's called categories in your Skylight calendar. And for us, we have each member of our family is assigned their own unique color. And so, what this allows everybody in your family to do is to easily zero in and see what are the things on the calendar that are relevant to them. I happen to be, my favorite color is pink. So the things that I own on the calendar are in pink. Things that my husband owns on the calendar are green. Our daughter likes kind of a turquoisey color. And then you'll also notice there were some things that were just white. Currently at the time of this video, if there's an appointment that is white on your calendar, it means that there is more than one person assigned to it. So because the white gets kind of hidden a little bit, my recommendation right now is we actually make the owner of the event, that is the category that we assign it to. So let me give you an example. You will notice here on ours every morning, you can see 3 of them right here. It just says school, and some days are pink and some days are green. We need to drive our daughter to school every day. And so if it's color coded green for that day, that lets us know that my husband is doing the driving to school. If it is pink, then I am doing the driving to school. It does involve our daughter. We're both going to school, but for activities like that, we like to color code who actually owns it. So it's a really great visual each week as we're deciding who's going to be doing both drop off and pickup. We can color code those accordingly. You can really play with using categories a million different ways. But by default, the recommendation is every member of your family can get assigned a specific color. And then along the top of your Skylight calendar, you'll see it has kind of this label of the colors. As somebody walks by the calendar, they can tap on just their color and it will show only the things on the calendar relevant to them. So you can keep it, ours doesn't get too crazy because we're not a huge family, but if you have a lot of people that are sharing this calendar, each user can walk by and tap and just see the information that, they have been assigned to on the calendar. Now that I've got you excited about seeing it, I wanted to dive into that first. Let's talk about one of the most important things here. How do we get the information onto our Skylight calendar? And friends, I am here to tell you, this is what made me fall in love with this tool. There are a number of different options to that kind of syncs up the information on your calendar. All right. So I'm going to walk you through a couple different options, and then I'm going to tell you what I'm using and why I made that specific choice. So when you first get your Skylight calendar, all you're going to have to do is connect it to the internet. And then you have the choice of connecting any one of your existing digital calendars and syncing it right to the Skylight calendar. So I'm going to use a Google Calendar as an example, but it doesn't have to be a Google Calendar. You might have a Yahoo Calendar or an iCal account. All right, you're going to have the options to select. And if you are someone that is operating off of multiple Google accounts and Google Calendars, you can sync multiple over to your Skylight calendar. So let's take the simplest scenario. Maybe you have a Gmail, a Google account, and you are currently putting your appointments and information onto your Google Calendar. Well, when you kickstart up with your Skylight calendar, you will be able to connect it to that Google account. And then any color coding that you've set up in your Google account, if any, will be reflected over on your Skylight calendar, meaning it's going to create those categories for you. If you're someone that's just using a Google Calendar today without any color coding, everything's just going to come over in one color. And again, you can change that color. Getting it set up, if you're already using a digital calendar, is done in a matter of seconds. When you are syncing an existing calendar to your Skylight calendar, there's one important thing that I want to note to you, and that is that you will have the option to do either a two-way or a one-way sync. A two-way sync means anything that you put into your Google Calendar is automatically going to show up on your Skylight calendar. And then if you go and add an event directly on your Skylight calendar, which I'll show you that in a couple minutes, it's also going to put it onto your Google Calendar. So it's going to keep the two matching always. That's the two-way sync. Now, a one-way sync means anything that's on your Google Calendar, anytime you add something there, it's going to head over to your Skylight calendar automatically. But then if you put something directly onto the Skylight calendar, it's not going to go back and update your Google Calendar. Now, let me give you an example of where that one-way sync could be very, very helpful, especially for those of you that have been through my top program. If you are doing a level of planning on your Google Calendar that your entire family does not need to see, right? Maybe you are blocking off and protecting time, things like that, then it might make sense for you to do the one-way sync. So all of that information would go over to your Skylight calendar. But then if there was information on the Skylight calendar that does not belong in your family communication center, you could easily just go delete those events from your Skylight calendar. So they won't show up there, but it will not impact your Google Calendar. So I kind of wanted to give an example of how that one-way sync could be really impactful. I personally have my Google or my Skylight calendar set up to do the one-way sync for that exact reason. There is a lot of information on my Skylight calendar or on my Google Calendar that's just about me. The family doesn't need to know about it. For example, I had time blocked off on my calendar today to record these videos. It doesn't impact my family. It didn't belong on the Family Communication Center, so I deleted it from the Skylight calendar, but it was still showing up here in my Google Calendar. I want to mention another way that information can get from a digital calendar over to your Skylight calendar, and this is one I use the most. And the reason why I choose to use this is, believe it or not, I actually juggle right now 9 different digital calendars. Yes, 9. And I did not want to sync all 9 to my Skylight calendar because I would be spending a significant amount of time deleting a lot of information off of our Family Communication Center that does not belong there. When you get your Skylight calendar, each calendar comes with its own kind of email address. You could honestly choose to say, I don't want to be doing any automated syncing with my calendars. But then what you can do is if you open up whatever calendar tool you're using, you could invite your Skylight calendar to any event that you wanted to show up there. So let me kind of explain this in more detail. Maybe you are someone that has multiple Google calendars. And you're like, man, I don't want to be figuring out what I want to sync and what I don't want to sync. I just want to decide on a per event basis what to show up on my Skylight calendar. In that situation, you're not going to sync your calendars. And instead, what you will do is you can open up your calendar. Maybe it's iCal, Yahoo, Google, whatever. And let's say you had an event on there for like a repeating event for taking a child to soccer practice. Well, you could open up that event in your calendar, and then where it says invite other guests, you will be able to invite your specific Skylight calendar email address to that event. And when you do that, then the event will show up on your Skylight calendar. If you are hesitant to sync accounts because you're worried it's going to get too noisy and difficult, well, then you could choose just to invite specific events on a one-off basis. For me personally, I think one of my Google calendars to my Skylight calendar, and then for the rest of the information that needs to go on there across my other accounts, I invite the calendar to it so that it actually shows up and I have great control over what I'm deciding to display on our Family Communication Center. Before we dive into other amazing features outside of the core calendar, which for me, the calendar alone is what makes this product a must have in every home. You may be wondering, well, do I have to be the one in charge of this, or can I empower other people in my family to get information that they want over to the Skylight calendar? And you absolutely can. And I highly recommend that you do. The more that we can step away from being the core owner of all the information, I call it the chief information officer of our household, and empower others to, put their own information and own their own schedules, the better off we are. And the Skylight calendar also comes with an app for your mobile device. So I'm holding up the inside of the app. So you can control everything that goes to your Skylight calendar right from the app, which means you can invite other family members to your Skylight calendar account. So for example, I set up the Skylight calendar and I invited my husband and I invited our daughter. She is of an age, she has a mobile device now. So they are both invited to the Skylight calendar. So they both see all the same information on their app as well, which empowers them to add any events to the Skylight calendar directly from their own app or directly onto the calendar, which I'll show you how to do that here in a second. And it also means that all of the rest of the feature and functionality is available for them on the app as well. So this really puts you in a position to empower members of your family to be able to get the relevant information in there. An example of how we just did this recently, my husband is planning a work trip. Prior to the Skylight calendar, he would need to email me all of his trip information so I could plug it into my planning system. Instead, he just adds those events directly into the Skylight calendar. And if he's taking a flight somewhere, we can copy and paste the flight itinerary right into the event. I don't have to go anywhere else. I can look right on my calendar. I can see, the event there, and I can tap on it to get the flight information. And I didn't have to do anything to get that important information into our family communication center. All right, I mentioned I was going to show you that you can also put events just directly right onto the calendar. You can do it from the app, or if you're standing next to your calendar, you can always just tap on this big purple plus button down here, and it's going to give you the option to add an event. So when you do that here, you can make up your event name, you can pick your start date, your end date, and then right here you can assign one or more categories, which for us is actual people, to that event. You can make it a repeating event, etc. One of the things that we added directly onto our Skylight calendar is every other week we have a recycling pickup. And it was always so hard for us. Is this the recycling week? Is this not? Well, we went right into our Skylight calendar and added a recurring event to say recur every other Thursday. That's called recycling. We made it an all-day event. And I am going to move over here so that you can see now at the top of every other Thursday, we have a note here that's recycling. And by default, I have it assigned to my husband, so I don't have to take it down to the curb. But if he's gone, that it's a reminder there for me, and I will change the color over to myself. So I just want to show you how easy it is to get events directly right onto your Skylight calendar. You may be wondering, because I mentioned, that your kids can have access to do this. One of the things that's really important to mention is this Skylight calendar is just that. It is the feature and functionality that comes with the calendar. This is not a computer that then you download other apps on, which means it's not opening up the internet to children that maybe you don't want to have access to. So you can safely have this up in your home without worrying that someone's going to, download something and be watching content that you don't want them to have access to. All they're going to be able to do is hit on the things that come with the Skylight calendar. So I felt very safe and comfortable having this up and available in our home, knowing that it wasn't becoming that slippery slope of what kind of things were we introducing technology-wise. Okay, we've kind of touched on the highlights of the calendaring portion of it. And again, as I mentioned, that's what we use 99% of our Skylight calendar for. It is the best family communication center tool I've ever seen. This is why I'm obsessed with this. The second tool that we use the most is meal planning. There are so many experts out there today that are sharing, tips and strategies around meal planning. But I think, whether you are a meal prepper, a meal planner, whatever the case may be, I think we can all agree that stepping into either a week or the next 4 or 5 days, knowing ahead of time how to answer the question, what's for dinner, is just a really nice place to be. Now, in our household, we don't do detailed meal planning for breakfast or for lunches, but we do for dinner. So every Sunday, we sit down as a family and decide what meals do we want for dinner in the upcoming week. And then right here on my Skylight calendar, I can tap over here where it says meals, and I have the full meal planning access set up. Now, when you first get your Skylight calendar, you may only have the dinner plan option. What I'm showing you is an upgrade of full meal planning. So you can easily tap on any square and decide what you want for dinner. So let's come over here on Monday, the 17th. If I tap here in this little square, you're going to see a whole list of dinners pops up over here for me. So maybe we know, what, we're actually going to eat out tonight. So I could tap on the eat out button, and that's going to go ahead and pre-fill here. Now, I want to explain to you where all those dinner options came from. Out of the box, they're going to give you a couple, but you can go in and customize any options that you want to have available for any meals. If you're like us, you probably eat like the same 10, maybe 14 meals on repeat most of the time. You can go add those into your Skylight calendar and then simply just tap on your squares and pick one of the options. You don't have to type it in over and over and over. That's what I love about it. We have the meal plan set out there, which then allows us to go make our grocery list so quick. Now, here's why I personally love the meal planning option. Anytime anyone in my family now will do the what's for dinner, all I need to do is say it's on the calendar. And everyone has the ability to clearly see what's going on for dinner that night. It also serves as a great reminder if we needed to pull something out of the freezer to defrost. So this is why I love the meal planning. If you have younger children that you want to have them start participating, say, in packing their school lunches, this is a great tool for you because you would be able to go in and on the lunch area, lay out what goes in the school lunchbox, and then your child can be empowered to open that up and go ahead and look at everything listed there and pack it up for their lunchbox the night before as well. The next feature I want to introduce you to is called lists. If you've been following me for a while, you always hear me say a to-do list or a task list is not a plan. I personally don't recommend using the Skylight calendar as a action items for the day. Because again, I believe that those belong in your weekly plan with specific times so that you know you're getting everything done well. But I will tell you where I love the list feature on our Skylight calendar. We have usually about every other month, we make a trip to our local Costco. And then usually about once a month, I make a trip to a drugstore to get the non-grocery things. We have set up our lists, and I'm going to go ahead and tap on it right here so you can see it. In the list view, you have the ability to create list types. So I'm going to hit that pull down for you, and you'll see we have a bunch of lists. It always comes with a to-do list by default. But for instance, we have a Costco list and we have a drugstore list. Remember how I mentioned that everything syncs to the app. What this allows is for our whole family, if someone realizes they're out of something that requires a drugstore run or a Costco run, anyone can open up their phone and add something to the relevant list. And oftentimes it is happening when I'm in the kitchen, like I'm realizing, oh, we're out of, paper towels, or we're getting low on paper towels. Well, I can come straight to the Skylight calendar or open up my app and go to Costco and add paper towels. This means is I don't have to remember and be asking everybody. As everyone's thinking of things, oh, I'm almost out of toothpaste, they can go in and add it to the drugstore list. Then when the time comes for either myself or my spouse to go to the store, well, guess what? We don't have to use another app. We get to come in and open up our Skylight app, go right to the list, and open up our Costco shopping list. And it's right there. I didn't have to put things in different places. So I really, really love the lists to empower your whole family to add things in the moment that they are remembering. The way we use this with our daughter is we've really kind of put the responsibility for her with her school lunches. As she is packing school lunches during the school year, if she sees she's running low on something that she likes to have in her school lunch, we tell her, add it there so that our next grocery store run, we can always see what's there. And that way she's not having to remember in the moment, right? So it's a great kind of skill that we can teach all of our family members is right when you're thinking of something that we need to make an errand for to go purchase, it can go right there on the Skylight app. And then whoever is doing the shopping is going to have access to it because we're all synced up together. All right, another core feature that I want to touch on here with the Skylight Calendar is the area called chores. My daughter is of an age that we are personally not using the Skylight Calendar for her responsibilities around the house or contributions, as we like to call them. But if she were younger and I'd had the Skylight Calendar, I absolutely would have leveraged this. Now, what's really fun is that you can assign different, in the Skylight Calendar, they're called chores. You can think of them as responsibilities, contributions, etc. You can assign different ones to different family members, and they're always going to be associated with their core color. You do have options in your settings to show chore progress in the calendar view, or you can just come right into the chore view. And I've just set one up here to show you. Right now, it shows that there is one chore for today assigned to Megan, and it's showing 0 of 1 completed. So I can come by, and if I have done that chore, if I've done my packing for my trip, I can go ahead and say it's done, and look at that fun little confetti. This is a great way that you can set up reminders and responsibilities, especially for younger children in the home, that makes it enjoyable for them. Again, you can customize in the settings view of your Skylight Calendar if you want those reminders on the calendar view themselves, or if you want to just keep them all right there on the chore view. And you could choose to keep the chore view set up as your default. So as family members are walking by, they're able to come in and see the visual reminder and then go ahead and tap as they are completing. Now, I want to touch on one other feature that I also really enjoy. It does not come with these when you just purchase your Skylight Calendar. All right, all of the calendaring, dinner plans, chores, lists, those all come when you purchase your calendar, you're up and running. But you can also upgrade to a monthly subscription that unlocks some pretty cool features, the full meal planning that I showed you. But it also gives you the ability to turn your calendar into a digital photo album. And here is how the digital photo album works. And I'm going to tell you why I personally like it and made that decision. First, you're always wondering, how hard is it to get pictures to my calendar, right? If you're of an age, as I am, where we were on the forefront of all the technology, the original digital calendars out there meant that we had to get like some kind of a thumb drive or something and save photos onto it and then go upload them over to our calendar. Well, remember, we have the power of the Skylight app, which means I can come right into my Skylight app, tap on the photos, and then right from my mobile device, I can just pick any photos on my camera roll and they will instantly be sent over to the Skylight Calendar. We have our calendar set up in such a way that usually the default view is the calendar. I want everyone to constantly be able to see what are the important things that are going on for this week. Now, we keep our Skylight Calendar in our kitchen, which means if we have company or guests over, maybe I don't necessarily want them to see everything that is going on. I don't necessarily want everyone to just see into my calendar. Well, this is why I love the ability to, with the tap of a button, have my Skylight Calendar turn into a digital photo frame. And you can even adjust the settings of how often you want your pictures to change. So we have ours set up that it will be on one photo for 30 seconds, and then it will move to another photo, 30 seconds, so on and so forth. So that if we have guests, company, etc. over, what looks like an actual calendar starts to turn into a beautiful digital photo frame that rotates through pictures. And so people are none the wiser that this is actually a calendar. Then to get it back to calendar mode, you just walk up, you tap on the photo, and boom, you're right back into your family communication center. Depending upon where you are housing this, it might make sense for you to add on that photo capability, because it's really nice to be able to have those photos going, especially if there's a time where you don't want the calendar to be front and center. All right, before we wrap this up, I also want to share one other fantastic use for the Skylight Calendar. I would highly recommend this for anyone that is currently homeschooling children. When I think through, I did homeschooling for a short window of time. If I had had my Skylight Calendar when I was doing homeschooling, it would have been a game changer, because I was trying to create a paper version, essentially, of what the Skylight Calendar now does for me every week to map out what we were going to be doing, different subjects, were we at home, were we out, etc. So if you're currently homeschooling, I want you to start thinking about, with those categories and all those color coding, right? Not only can you create those for individual members of your family, but you could have it for different topics, or whether you're going on a field trip or you're staying at home. Is this indoor learning, outdoor learning, etc. And it would really empower you and your children together to create your homeschool schedule for the week. So I cannot recommend this tool enough, especially if you are currently in a stage of life where you're doing homeschooling. You are interested in going ahead and grabbing your own Skylight Calendar, just head over to skylightframe.com. We've got the URL below. And again, what you saw here today does not cover every single variation of what you can do with the calendar. I just wanted to give you an overview of the key features and how, as a time management and planning expert myself, how I am using this inside of our home. It has been a complete game changer. I cannot recommend this enough.